Hello guys, welcome to the Cool Down YouTube channel. It's good to have you back again. So today we'll be building a shopping cart making use of Angular and local storage. So as you can see on the page, we have some products, some of which include a digital camera, a guitar, microphone, laptop, monitor, and a shoe. And like any shopping cart, we have functionalities to add a product, to delete a product, to check out a product and confirm an order. So quickly, let's just select probably one or two products here. I think I'll go first with the digital camera. As you can see on the preview sidebar, we have a short description of what the product is all about and also a picture, and then we have a functionality where if we try to buy more than one product for probably the digital camera we selected, the price increases when we increase the quantity. As you can see, it's now 79 USD. If we select another product, let's say we select this particular microphone, it gets highlighted on the sidebar as well as together with the price as well as description. If we increase the price, if we increase the quantity, the price also increases as well. So to check how the remove functionality works, I'm going to select one more product, then remove it. So if I select the monitor and then if I click on remove, it gets removed from the cart, and up here we have the total price of everything we've selected calculated already for us. So let's say we are satisfied with what we've selected. If I click on the checkout button, we get navigated to the payment page, and for this project we have integrated PayPal to confirm our payment. So with PayPal we are provided with two options: either we make use of our debit or credit card or make use of the PayPal itself. So if I click on PayPal, we get directed to the PayPal page where we have to log in and then confirm the order. As you can see, I'm already logged into PayPal and it kind of shows me how I want to make the payment, either with my Visa card or probably I want to pay later and the like. But for me, I'm going to pay now with the Visa card. It's my preferred option. So I'm going to scroll down and click on pay now. As you can see up top as well, the price is already showing in euros. We configure that in our code to show the price in euros. So if I scroll down and I click on pay now, then the payment will be initialized. If it's successful, I get directed to a success page. As you can see, the order is successful and I get a success page. So if I click on go back to home, then we get directed back to the landing page of the shopping cart. So that's what we'll be building today. Stay tuned. If you like what you've seen so far, do well to like as well as subscribe as a form of support to the channel. It also encourages me to create more awesome content. So without wasting much time, let's get straight into how this was built. So we're going to start off this project from scratch by generating a new Angular project. So I'm going to type in the command to start a new project, which is engine new, and then the name of the project. I'm going to call this shopping carts and then press enter. We'll be presented with a couple of prompts which is about routing and then the type of CSS format we want. So this project is going to make use of routes, so I'm going to select yes, and then I'm going to go with the traditional CSS, and with that a new Angular project will be generated for us. Now that a new Angular project has been successfully created for us, we can open this in Visual Studio Code by pressing or by typing out code dots and pressing enter. The Visual Studio Code will be opened for us automatically through this command. And the first step I want us to take in this project is create all the components we're going to need for this project. So let me just clear this off. I think we're going to need three basic components for this application, which are the home component, the payment component, as well as the success component. But before I can generate the component, I need to cd into the directory of our Angular project, which we called shopping cart. So I'm going to type cd shopping cart, press enter, and then we can generate the components by using the Angular commands ng generate component home and ng generate component payment, and the final component is ng generate component success. Hope I spelled that correctly. Then we can press enter, and these three components is going to be generated for us through the power of the CLI. As you can see, all three components have been generated successfully. So I can head back to the Visual Studio Code and let's open up our project directories. We'll be working from the XRC directory. Let me increase the font size of this Visual Studio Code so that the code can appear more clearly. So inside of our app directory, we're gonna start off by setting up the data we'll be working with, because for this project we'll be working with a JSON object which are already created for us. We will not be working with any external API. So inside the assets directory, I'm gonna create a new file called data.json. So I'm gonna click on new file. I'm gonna call it data.json. Press enter. So inside the data.json file, I'm gonna paste this array of objects which I have here into the file. As you can see, we have an array of objects in this file. If I scroll down, you see I have about 6 of them, and they all have the same number of keys and values. For instance, the first one has an ID, a name, a description, type, color, price, discount, and quantity, same as the second array of objects. This is similar to working with an external RESTful API. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I've decided to work with a JSON object we have full control over. So the next thing we want to do is we want to set up the Angular project to display this data in the console. To do that, we'll make use of the HTTP client module. So to import the HTTP client module, we're going to head to the import array, and then we're going to type in HTTP client module, which we need to import above as well. So I'm going to scroll to the top of the page and then type in import HTTP client module from @angular/common/HTTP. We didn't spell module correctly, so I'm going to remove the I over there. So I think it spells correctly now, and we have the HTTP client module imported. For us to display the data from the JSON file into one of our components, we need a service to do that. So I'm going to generate a new service, and I'm going to call it product. So I'm going to type in ng generate service and then product. So this is going to generate a boilerplate service for us. So we can head straight to Visual Studio Code, and if I scroll below the app.module.cs file, we can see the product service file. What we need to do is to start off by importing the HTTP client also from @angular/common/HTTP. So I'm going to type in import HTTP client, and then next thing we need to do is to inject this HTTP inside our constructor. So to do that, I'm going to make it private. So private HTTP, and then we make reference to the HTTP client. Next up, we need to create a function that gets all the data in the data.json file. So I'm going to call this function getAllProducts. So type in getAllProducts, and then inside this function it's going to be a get request. So I'm going to return this.http.get, and then I'm going to open a brackets, and then we need to access the data.json file which is inside the assets folder. So I'm just going to type in assets/data.json. So I'm going to save that. That's the very first function we have just created in our service file. We'll create many more functions over the course of this tutorial. So I'm going to scroll to the home component and then open the TS file in the home component. And for us to have access to this service, we need to bring in the product service into this file as well. I think I'm going to do that in the constructor. I just also have to instantiate a private variable here by typing in private product_service, and then let's reference the product service, which we can see is imported above right here. So now that that is done, we want the data to show us at the point when the page loads, and we have to make use of the ng on init lifecycle hook. This is where this comes into play. What I can do is I can just make use of the this keyword to get all of our product service. So I'm going to type in this dot product service dot get all products, and then I'm going to open a bracket. So I'm going to subscribe because it returns an observable. So when I subscribe, everything's going to be inside a curly bracket, and then we're going to return 3 observables, which are next, error, and subscribe. So the first one, which is next, so I'm going to type in next, and then it's going to have a colon in front, and then we open a bracket and then give it return our response, and then use an arrow function, and inside of the arrow function we can just console log the response, and right below the next we need to handle a situation where we might likely have an error. So I'm going to type in error, and then the error observable takes in an error parameter. You need to return the arrow function as well. So normally you might handle this in different ways. You might have sometimes return an alert that takes in the error argument, and then finally the complete. This is when you want to handle a particular functionality when the entire operation has been completed. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just gonna console.log a text that says request completed, and then I save. I think with this we are good to go. So what I'm gonna do now is to compile the application. So I'm gonna run the command ng serve, and then our application gets compiled. Now that our application has compiled successfully, I'm gonna head straight to the browser, and in the browser I'm gonna load the local host, which is 4200. So I'm gonna open the terminal by clicking on the inspect and then clicking on console, and let's see if we have any data in the console. Okay, we are not seeing any data in the console because we haven't configured our route. So quickly let me head back to the Visual Studio Code, and in the app routing.module.cs file, I'm going to configure the route inside of the route array, which we have right here. So I'm going to open an object, or a bracket rather, and it's going to take in two arguments. The first one is the path. So I'm going to set up the home route first, and it's going to take in a component key, and it's going to be home component. We need to import it here. So I'm going to bring this down a couple of times more since we have just two more components to go, and the next one is going to be payment, and then we need to bring in the payment component, import it as well, and finally the last component, success component. So it's going to have a part of success, then we have success component. We need to import it here as well, and with that we're good to go. But one more thing I want to set up is the default path for the application. That is, in a situation where we don't have a /home or /payment, what's the default page, like the landing page that should be loaded, and that's going to be the home page. So to do that, I'm going to create another bracket, and inside that bracket I'm going to have an empty path, and then we're going to redirect, make use of the redirect directive here, and it's going to take /home. We're going to redirect us to /home, and then we're going to give it the path match of full, so that that component is going to be loaded without any form of error. So I'm going to save, and then when we head back to the browser, we should be navigated to the home component. As you can see, we are in the home component. How do we know this? When you look at the console, we have the console.log for the 6 objects we have in our data.json file, which we are loading from the home component in line number 15. But the reason why we still have this UI showing is because in the app.component.html file, the boilerplate for the Angular project still right there. So we need to clear this off. So if I just select everything here and clear it, but we need to give it a router-outlet tag. This is necessary for our routing, because without this our routing would not function properly. So when we save, you see the page is going to be blank, and then we can now see the text that says home works. That means we are now in the home components, which we can see in the route above, localhost 4200 /home. So next thing is I want to set up the boilerplate template for the application. For this application, we'll be making use of Bootstrap 5. So I'm going to head to the Bootstrap 5 website, and then I'm going to grab the CDN. So if I scroll down, and I'm going to see this link tag, which is for the CSS. I'm going to copy it, and then I head straight to the Angular project, and in the index.html file, right in the head tag, within the head tag, I'm going to paste in the link and then save. So with that, we'll have access to all the default Bootstrap 5 classes. I don't want to spend much time on the page design. I'm going to head to the home component.html file, and then I'm going to paste in this boilerplate code from my notepad. So I'm going to grab everything I have here. In the home component, I'm going to paste it right in, as you can see. So I'm going to save, and let's see how the home page looks like. As you can see, the images look very large. This is not supposed to be so. So I'm going to grab the CSS as well. So I head straight to the notepad, and then I grab everything inside of here, and then head straight to the home.component.css file, and then paste it in as well. And then let's see how it looks this time around. awesome. It looks much more reasonable. So I don't want to delve too much into the design, but I just will go over it briefly. Most of what we have here are just Bootstrap 5 classes. For instance, this navbar was gotten from the Bootstrap documentation. And when you check out the body, everything is wrapped around the container, makes everything aligned properly. When you look at the div that wraps around the sidebar, it takes a value of 4 for the medium as well as the medium screen as well as the large screen. So it's just a small portion of the page. So when I save, you can have an idea of how it's going to look like, which we can see right here. So everything we have here is just default static text. We've not started integrating the data from our JSON objects as of yet. So to do that, we need to head straight to our service file. So to integrate the CRUD functionality in this application, we need to create functions in this service that helps us to make use of local storage to create create, read, update, and delete functionality. So before we start off, I'm going to create a global variable up here called product. This product is going to by default take in an empty array. So it has a data type of any, and then it's going to be set to an empty array because by default every product is empty. The first function I'm going to create is going to be called get product. So I'm going to type in get product, and then it's going to return this dot product, basically returning every product inside the array. This dot product. I think that's pretty much simple. Then the next function we need to create for this service is the save cart function. This helps us to save an item to the cart. So to do that, I'm going to call this function save cart, and then I'm going to open a bracket, and within the brackets I'm going to call the local storage. This is the first time we're making use of local storage in this project. So the local storage has different functions like set item, get item. So for this particular function, we're trying to save an element to the cart, so we're going to make use of the set item in this scenario. So I'm going to say local storage.set item, and then what item are we going to save? It takes into arguments the name that is the key of the item we're trying to save, and then the item itself. So we're going to call this item cart underscore items, and then we're going to make use of JSON.stringify in JavaScript so that the result of the product come in form of a JSON object. So I'm just gonna do the stringify this dot product. Okay, we have this error because instead of providing a comma, we have a full stop here. So with that, we've created the function to save an element to cart. So what we need to do next is to create the function to add an item to a cart. So I'm gonna type in add to cart, and then within the add to cart function, this one is going to have an argument. So the argument we need to provide in the add to cart is the added products, because when you want to add an item to cart, you need to click on the item, like select the item. So we need to save the item we selected as an argument. So I'm going to call it added product. I'm going to give it a type of any, and then within this function we can now reference our product. So by saying these dots products, which is a variable we created above, then we want to push to the empty array by default the added products we created, and then we now conclude this function by saving the item to the cart by calling this dot save cart. And that's all we need to do for this function to add an item. Now we also need to load the cart sometimes, like to get all the items we have inside of the cart. So now I'm going to call this function load cart. So to do that, let's type in load cart, and then the load cart function is going to also make use of the local storage, like I guess you'd have guessed. So this is going to be making reference to our products object, our product variable we created above, by saying this dot product is equals to, this time around when we want to retrieve the products, we make use of JSON.parse, and within the JSON.parse we can now call our local storage by saying local storage.get item. This time around we are not setting item, we are trying to receive the item, and the item we are trying to retrieve must have the same name as the one we set. So I'm going to copy these cart items to ensure we don't have any form of mistake or misspellings. And then we're having an error that says argument of type string or null is not assignable to parameter type of string. So we can overcome this error by giving a type of any, and in case we are trying to load the cart when there's no item in it, we return an empty array. So next up, we want to know the specific type of product we have in our cart. That is, in a situation where you want to probably add the total number of items in our cart, we need a function to help us to handle that. So I'm going to call this function products in cart. So the products in cart function is going to take in an argument of products, and we're going to give it a type of any, and then within it we're going to return this dot product dot find index. This helps us to find the index of that particular product we're trying to locate. So we're going to give it a variable of any, and then make use of the arrow function, and then we're going to say x.id. If the id of the product in the array is equals to the selected product, which is product.id, then if it's greater than -1, it allows us to know that there is an item in the cart. So it helps us to know that the cart isn't empty. So the next one is the functionality to remove a product. So to remove a product, we just call the function remove products, which makes things clear. So the remove product also takes in an argument of products, because we want to know the type of products we want to remove. So I'm just going to give it a argument of type any. So within this remove products function, I'm going to create a variable that gets the specific index of that particular product. So I'm going to say const index, and then this dot products dot find index, and then we give it a variable of x. Then if the x.id is equals to the product.id, that is, if the id in the list of products we have in the carts or in the array is the same thing as the product we select, that means we are able to determine the type of product we've clicked on. Now we now create a condition that says if the index, that is, if that particular index of that product we selected is greater than -1, then what do we want to do? We want to remove that product from the array. And to remove a product in JavaScript, you make use of the splice method. So I'm going to say this.products.splice, and then it takes in two values or two arguments, the index and the specific position we want to remove the item. So we just want to remove the first item in the index, and then we once again save the change state of the cart by calling this dot save cart. So that now saves the current items we have in the cart. So if we previously had 5 items in the cart and remove one, then it's going to save 4 products inside of the cart. If we remove another, it's going to save 3. So like that, it's like a form of function that helps us to update the cart. So finally, we want to clear all the products in the cart. So I'm going to call this clear products, then spell products correctly. So clear products, inside the clear products function, we just need one simple local storage method, and that's clear. So I'm going to say local storage dot clear. So it's going to clear every single thing within the local storage. And with all these functions we've created, we now have a possibility of creating a CRUD shopping cart application. And with this, we can now add to our own components and make our data dynamic by performing all these CRUD functionalities. Now what we need to do is, this data we're logging into the console, we need to assign it to a variable. So we're going to create a new variable right above, and I'm going to call this variable product list. So I'm going to type in product list because it contains all the list of the products. I'm going to give it a type of any, and we get an error that says product list has no initializer and is not definitely assigned in the constructor. So I think I'm going to give it an initializer by assigning this exclamation mark to it, and then within this next observer we can just say this product list is equals to rest. So with that, we can now look through the data in our template file by making use of this product list variable. So I'm going to add to the home component HTML file. So within the product list container, so let's scroll up. Okay, this is where we have all the list of the items. So when I head back to the browser, as you can see all these lists. I think we have 1 2 3 4 static data. This doesn't concern the sidebar for now. So what we want to do is to make this data display what we have in our JSON object. So let me open the console one more time, and within the console I'm gonna show us this array. As you can see, we have 6 items here, each of them having their own specific key and value. So quickly, let's make use of the ng4 directive in Angular. So I'm gonna make use of an asterisk and type in ng4. So ng4, and we start off by saying let product lists. So let's product of product list. This alone allows us to have access to each key in the product. So we need to start off, I think the first thing we have there is the image. So to make the image dynamic, I'm going to make use of sort of binding, and then within this quotation I'm gonna clear everything in there because all the images look the same. So I can just say product.image, because if I check the results of the objects we have right here, the images is assigned to the image key. So the next thing I want to display is probably the name, right? Yeah, the name of the product. So I'm gonna clear this and then make use of string interpolation by typing in product.name. Next one is the type. So the product type, make use of string interpolation as well by typing in product.type. Am I correct? Yes, I am. Then we have the color, so I can just give it a color, the right color by typing in products.color. Then anything else, I think we have the price. Yes, we have the price. So for this price, I'm just gonna make use of the double brackets here once more. So product.price, and then I can save. I think we've covered everything within the okay. Before I proceed, I think we need, there are so many duplicates right here, so we need to sort of get rid of the rest of them. So I'm just gonna select this and then remove it from the list because it's static data. So that's one. I'm gonna remove the next one as well, and then I think we have the final one, which is this. So now all our data which will be returned are now dynamic. So let me save and then let's head to the browser to see how it looks this time around. So we get an error that says product list does not exist on type component, type home components. I don't think that's possible. Okay, I see where the error is. We did not save our home component.ts file. So once I save that, it recognizes this variable. We are looping in our template file. So when I head back to the browser, I believe that error should be gone. As you can see, the error is gone, and now we now have data for each of our products. So let me make the browser look a bit bigger. So as you can see, we have the camera, we have the type, color, and the price as well. Each one its own price. If I hover them, the item gets a little bit zoomed through the use of CSS animation. So we now have all our products displayed on the page with their name, their type, their color, as well as their price. So the next functionality I want us to integrate right now is how to add a product to cart. So to add a product to cart, we need to head back to the home component.cs file, and so right below the ng on init lifecycle hook, I'm gonna create or type out a new comment that says add products to cart, and below this comment I'm gonna create a function called add to cart, and then open a bracket, and within this bracket the first thing I want us to do is to have access to the products we want to add to the cart. That is, when I head to the browser, if I click on probably this camera or this electric guitar, I want us to have access to that particular product. So to do that, we need to give this function an argument. So I'm going to give it an argument of product, and it's going to have a type of any. And for now, what I want to do is to console.log this product to the console anytime I click on a particular product. So I'm going to type in products. Now to bind this function to our template file, we need to head straight to where we have the button that says add to cart, and within this button we're going to make use of a click event handler in Angular, and inside of this click event handler we're going to paste in our function which is called add to cart, which also has the bracket. And now we need to pass in the arguments we configured right here. We need to pass in the argument in our HTML file. So it's going to take in an argument of products. So if I paste in products, the warning error should disappear. Then let me save everything we've done so far, then head straight to the browser, and then when I click on a particular product, I'm going to open the console and let's see if it logs anything inside of the console. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on probably the first one here. Let's click on this. As you can see on the console, we have the details of the particular product we clicked on, which is the camera. It has the camera name, the price, quantity, and the description. If I clear the console and then click on the last product we have here, which is the open toe shoe, if I click on it and I expand the object, you can see we have the name of the open toe shoe, the price, every details that we need. What we want to do next is to ensure that anytime we add the product to cart, we want the information to display on the product preview sidebar, which we have here. Currently what we have here is just static data, so let's quickly implement that in our TS file. So quickly in the home component.ts file, I'm going to clear off the console.log, and then the first thing I need to do is to create a conditional statement that says if the cart is not empty, and we're going to access the service, the product and cart service, to do this. So what do I mean? I'm going to type in this dot product service dot product and cart, which is in our service file, our product service file, and it's going to take in the product argument. So what we mean here is if the product in the cart is, if the product exists in the cart, then we want the following conditions to take place. So the first thing is we want to set the quantity to 1. So I'm going to say product dot quantity, and then the next thing we want to do is we want to call the add to cart service in our product service file. So I'm going to call this dot product service once more dot add to cart, and then it's also going to take in the product argument, that is the particular product we clicked on. What we want to do next is we want to assign a new array to the object that was generated for the new product. So what do I mean? If I need to create a new variable above, this is the one where we need to look through in our HTML file to display every product we add to the cart. Everything gets added in a new array. So what I'm going to do right here is to create a variable called product. So I'm going to type out product, and then this product is going to be given a type of any, and it's going to be set as an array. So any is equals to an empty array at the initial stage. Now we need to access this product by heading back to our add to cart function, and inside this function I can just say this dot product is equals to an array, and then I'll make use of the spread operator, which helps us to assign this to a new array. And then I'm going to say this dot product service dot get all products. So this allows us to get all the products that we just assigned to the new array and then display it in the UI. I think it's products, get all product. I'm not sure why that error is showing. I need to check our service file and see what I call that particular function to get all products. So I think this should be get products, not get all products. So I think I made a mistake there. So this should be get products. So I'm just going to copy get products. There you go. So with that, we can save the add to cart function and then try to integrate it in our HTML file. So quickly, I'm going to head straight to the home component HTML file, and in the sidebar, we need to look through the products variable somewhere around there. So I think we can do that around the products info class. I think that's the div that wraps around the particular position where we have all the dynamic data. So I think it's covering everything we need. So I can just make use of the ng4 directive in Angular, and then I can say start off with the asterisk by saying ng4 is equals to let product of products, and then I want to get the index of each item. So I can also create a new variable that says let I is equals to index. So we'll need this particular index at some point. First thing we need to do is to dynamically render the image, and to do that we need to bind the src tag just like we've done earlier in the project. So I'm going to get rid of this placeholder URL that we have right here. So get rid of this, and then instead what we're going to have here is products.image. So I'm going to type in products. I might make use of optional chain here to help us get rid of any form of unnecessary errors. So I'm going to make use of product.image right there, and then the next place we need to have dynamic data is the name, so the product name. So I'm going to make use of string interpolation and just type in products.name, and then for the price as well I can just make use of string interpolation and have product.price. Same goes with the product description. I'm going to get rid of the placeholder lorem text we have right there and have products.description lowercase d. So for now, before we go further, I just want to save and see how the page looks like in the browser. So let me quickly head straight to the browser to even see if we are doing the right thing. So for now, we can see there are no products on the sidebar. So let me add the first product. Whoa, okay, this is cool. Now we have a product showing on the sidebar. So the only thing we need to make functional here is the price. Like what we have here is just the placeholder price. When you check this particular part, you see we still have the 1000 USD, which is the placeholder. And anytime we increase the input field, it's not increasing the way we want it to increase. So I think that's the functionality we need to integrate now. And to do that, we may need to create a new variable for that, for it to be dynamic. So let me head straight to the home component.cs file, and still within the add to cart function, I'm gonna create a new variable called subtotal. So right at the top, I'm gonna scroll here and then call the variable subtotal, and then let me just copy this. So I can just say right here, this dot subtotal is equals to product.price, because we are trying to assign it to the price we have for each specific product. I'm gonna head back to the HTML file, and then instead of having this placeholder, I'm gonna clear it off and then have the subtotal string interpolation right there. And because it's in form of price, like it's in form of a number, I can just make use of a pipe called number, which is available for us in Angular, and then I'm gonna give it 1.2-2. This helps us to add comma to the appropriate places depending on the price we have. Like it makes it be formatted in form of a currency. Quickly, let's just edge through the browser once more, and I think we have an error somewhere. Subtotal does not exist on type home component. Okay. Oh, we didn't save the TS file, so let me save that and we head straight to the browser once more. I believe the error should have disappeared. Yeah, as you can see, the error disappears, so we can add a new product. Let me add the second product on the cart, and you can see the price is now dynamic, which is 99 USD, and it appears in form of a currency. Now we need to deal with the input field right here, which is supposed to help us increase the price of each product as we increase the input field or the quantity, as the case may be. So I head straight to the HTML file. We need to make use of forms module in Angular, and to do that I need to import it in the import array. So after the HTTP client module, I can just type in forms module, and then it gets imported for us all the way from Angular forms. So I can just save that and then close it. So now anytime we make use of the form directives in the forms module, we will not get any form of errors. So we're gonna make use of two form directives, which is the ng model and the ng model options, which we set as a standalone of true, because we don't need to have any form of form control attached to this particular HTML tag. The first directive we'll make use of is the ng model. So it's gonna be in a banana in a box. So we're gonna type ng model inside a banana in a box. The ng model is gonna take in the quantity, so is equals to products.quantity. So we have products.quantity, and then the optional chaining cannot be used inside of the ng model option. So I'm gonna get rid of it to avoid Angular freaking out. I never knew that. That's interesting. And then let's make use of the ng model options. So I'm just gonna type in ng model options, and inside the ng model options, we're gonna have a bracket which has a condition that says the standalone attributes to true. That's all we need to do right here. And the last thing we need to do is, because this event is a change event, that is anytime we add a new product and then we increase the quantity, you are changing it. So we need a change event handler to handle this scenario. We have change, and then we need to name our function, and I'm going to call this change subtotal. So change subtotal, and it's going to take in two parameters. The first one is the product we're adding to the product cart, and the second one is the index, which we created above. If you remember, we created an index variable above. We need to implement this particular function in our TS file. So I'm going to head to the TS file, and below the add to cart function, I'm going to create a comment that says change subtotal amount. So to do that, let's just have our function right there, and like we did in the HTML, we need to create the two arguments which we integrated in that part. So the first one is the product, right? So we have to take the product, which will give a type of any, and as well as the index. So the index, we can also give it a type of any or a type of number, as the case may be. So we need to create two variables here. The first variable is the quantity, and the second variable is the price. price. So I'm going to create the first variable, and I'm going to call it QTY, which stands for the quantity. So I'm going to say product dot quantity, and then the second variable is going to be AMT, which helps to hold the variable the value for the price. So I'm going to type in product dot price, and right below this I'm going to implement the subtotal. So to implement the subtotal, I'm going to say this dot subtotal, which we already created earlier. I'm going to say is equals to amount multiplied by the quantity, which is the calculation to implement that anyways. Now we need to now save the product to cart by calling the cart service in our product file, in our product service file. So when I head over there, if we look for save cart, this is save cart. So that means it's going to save any item we add to cart to local storage by calling the set item in local storage, and then saving that particular object inside of local storage. So anytime we refresh the page, the data now persists. So I'm going to call this function by saying this dot product service dot save cart. That's all we need to do. So I'm going to save everything we've done so far, and then let's see if the functionality works as expected. So quickly, let's add the first product we have here, and then let's increase the quantity, and let's see if the price changes as expected. As you can see, the price is changing. We now have 59 USD for 3 items, and 4 items is 79 USD. So if I refresh the page, I think the data should now persist. For some reason it doesn't because we've not implemented the functionality to get the items from local storage. But if I open the inspector, and then if I head straight to the application tab, and then I head straight to local storage, and inside of local storage you can see we have a key with the value of the items we have added to the cart, you see, which is the camera, which we have right here. So we have all the details right here. So later on, maybe that's what we'll do next. We'll see how we can just get all the values of the items we've added to local storage. But from what we can see in the inspector, in the application tab, the local storage now saves the items of our products in the cart. So heading back to the home components.cs file, what I want to do next is anytime we refresh the page, I want us to get those items from local storage. So in the ng on init lifecycle hook, that is the first time the page renders, I want us to access everything that is saved in local storage. To do that, we can assign the values to the product variable we set right above here, which is what we are looping through in our sidebar. I can just say this dot product is equals to this dot product service, or product underscore service dot get product. I believe this should get all the data we have available in the product. Also, we could load all the items in the cart as well. Let me check that function, load cart. I think it also fetches items from the local storage, which you have here. You can see the load cart. It gets all the item by making use of the get item keyword available in local storage. So we can also do that in the ng on init lifecycle hook. To do that, I can just say this dot product service dot load cart, and then let's save that. We head straight to the browser once more, and then let's see if every item we have in local storage gets displayed on the sidebar. Excellent. As you can see, the items get displayed on the sidebar except the price, which you have right here. The price is not showing. So I think the price is not showing, it's not displaying at the initial state because it's not among the objects being loaded at the point of refresh. Like if I increase the price now, you can see the price shows again, but if I should refresh the page, the subtotal we have here doesn't appear. So we need to fix that. That means the logic where we are calculating the subtotal, which we have here, we don't need to do it right here. We can do it in the HTML file as well. To do that, I'm just going to head to the home component HTML file. I'm going to get rid of this subtotal we have right here, and I'm going to do product.quantity. I'm going to copy that and paste it right there, and then I'm going to multiply it by product.price. So that should still give us the same results, but this time around the results should display at the first point the page reloads. So let's save and test that out. As you can see, the page just finished refreshing and we still have the price still showing, still persisted on the page. If I reduce the price to just one quantity, which is 19 USD, and I refresh the page, I believe the subtotal should still reflect that amount, which is what we have right here. So that functionality now works properly. So the next thing we want to do is to implement the functionality to remove an item from cart. So quickly in the TS file. So for now, I think we don't need this change subtotal. So I'm just going to comment this one out, and then let's quickly implement the functionality to remove an item from cart. So I'm going to write a comment that says remove a product from cart, and then down below I'm just going to say remove from cart, and then within this I'm just going to call two functions from service, which is called the remove product as well as the get product. What do I mean by this? If I head straight, okay, I think we have an error somewhere, so I'm just gonna get rid of this change function we have right here, and I think we should be good with that. For the remove product from cart, I wanted to show us something, and which is this function. We just want to call this function, which already out of the box implements the functionality to remove an index. That is, if the index of the products we are selecting is the same thing with the index in the array, then it's going to remove that particular product. So that's what we're trying to do right here. So I'll head straight to the home component HTML file, and in the remove from cart button, we're going to have a click event handler that takes in an argument. So this will be click, and then it's going to have a couple of quotes, and within the quotes I'm going to paste the function we created right here, remove from cart, and then we paste it right here, and then open a bracket for both, and then we pass in the product argument, which helps us to access the particular product we want to remove or delete, as the case may be. And then we head straight here, and then we pass the argument right here as well, and give it a type of any. So what we now do is we access the service by typing this dot product underscore service dot remove product and passing the products we want to remove. And to update the products, we can just do this dot product. This is the variable that contains the array of products we are displaying in the sidebar, and then we want to update it, and then we just say is equals to this dot products underscore service dot get products. So this will help us get all the latest products to be updated, and that's all we need to do. So I'm gonna save everything we've done so far, and then let's test out the remove products from cart functionality. To see if this works, I'm going to add an extra product, and then I'm going to delete the product ahead this camera right here. So let me click on remove from cart. As you can see, that product has been removed from cart. If I remove the microphone, that's also removed from cart. If I add the jitter and then I remove it, get removed. So we're able to add products, to read products, and also to delete products. So one thing we need to do right here is to update the total price. This total price, I believe, is still static data. If I search for $1,000, I think I can see it here right here, total price. So it's gonna need its own function for us to be able to implement this functionality. So we're gonna make use of a getter to do this. So below the remove from cart variable, so I'm gonna have a function that says calculate total. So to know if a function is a getter, it's gonna have a get keyword in front of it. So I'm gonna have get total, as you can see, and then within the get total we can return a specific condition by making use of the reduce. The reduce in JavaScript allows us to be able to calculate an array of variables to a single unit. So to do that, I'm going to type in the return keyword, and then I'm going to say this dot product, that is every available product we have in the cart item. So we're going to say dot reduce. He's going to take in a parenthesis with two arguments, sum and product. So the sum and product, we're going to have an arrow function, and within the arrow function we are going to have another bracket, and within this bracket we're going to have quantity and price. So the quantity is going to be set to 1, while the price is going to be the sum of the price and the quantity. So I'm going to type in price and then a colon in front. I'm going to say sum dot price plus product dot quantity multiplied by product dot price. Okay, we have an extra bracket right in front of the arrow. So multiplied by product dot price, and then right below we open a bracket that says quantity set to 1, and then the price is set to 0, before we now finally say dot price. So to access the price, I think we have an error somewhere because we don't have a comma after this bracket. So this is the accumulator that allows us to have a sum total of all the price in the array into a whole figure. I'm gonna grab this total, I'm gonna copy this, and then in the HTML file I'm gonna get rid of the 1000 figure we have right there, and then I'm gonna make use of string interpolation, and then I'm gonna paste in the total, and we're gonna pass in a pipe of currency which is available to us in Angular by default. So I'm gonna save everything we've done so far, and then let's see if this works as we expect. So let me add an item to cart. So let's add gigabytes computer. As you can see, the price is set to $999.99. if I add another product, let's say the monitor we have right here, which is 599, you see the sum of 999 and 599 is going to give you 1,599.98 cents. So the next thing we need to do is to implement the checkout functionality. So we're going to make use of Angular router, and to do that, we're going to create a new function called checkout. So I'm going to call this function checkout, and Angular router allows us to navigate to a new component very smoothly without refreshing the page. But two things I want us to do. First, I want us to set the total price, which we have right above here, the grand total of the cart we want to check out. I want us to set it to local storage, and then after that I want us to navigate to the payment component. So quickly I can just say local storage dot set item. So we can just call this cart total, and then we're gonna stringify whatever we have there, which is going to be this dot total. It's supposed to be in lowercase, so this dot total. Right under it we can just say this dot router dot navigate / payment. We're having an error here because we have not configured the router inside of the constructor. So right above here we've not imported the router in this component. So to import the router, we can just make use of the private keyword and set it to router and then router. And with that, we now have Angular router imported into this component. We are not done here yet because we still need to make use of the click event handler. So I'm going to head straight to the home component, and right above in the nav bar, in the button that contains the checkout text, I can just make use of the click event. By typing in click, we can now paste in the function we created in our TS file and save everything we've done so far. And once the file gets saved, we can now click on the checkout button, which navigates us to the next page. So let me click on checkout. As you can see, we are now in the / payment component, which says payment works. So the first thing I want us to do is to grab the details we saved in the local storage. So quickly in the payment component, inside of the engine on init lifecycle hook, I'm gonna get rid of the void, and I'm gonna create a variable above called cart total. This will hold the total of the carts we configured before we navigate into this component. So I'm gonna say this dot cart total is equals to json.parse local storage dot get item, because we are trying to get that particular item from local storage, which is cart underscore total. If you can still remember, we're gonna set the type as any, and in case if it's empty, we might as well just give it an empty array. This helps us to avoid any form of error. So I can just console log this dot total in the console to see if we have the price available for us. So this dot cart total. So I'm gonna save and head straight to the browser, open up the console. As you can see, we have the price available, 1,599.98. So perfect. So this is the price we need to pass to the PayPal checkout page as the price we want to pay for our particular product. So we need to implement the design, and to implement the design, I'm gonna make use of Bootstrap classes. Nothing much to be done here, so I'm just gonna paste this right here. As you can see, we just have a div with a container on the left side, which contains the payments widget for PayPal, and on the right we have the order summary, which just contains the static tests. We're going to make it dynamic very soon, but first let's save and see how the payment component looks. As you can see, let me close the console. So we have the order summary on the right hand side, and then the PayPal widget, which we are going to integrate very soon, is going to appear on the major part of the page. The price is set as 1,000. Let's make it dynamic. To do that, I'm just gonna get rid of this 1,000 figure and then make use of string interpolation, and I'm passing cart total, which we already configured in our TS file. So if we save, we now have the price we want to pay for the item in the home component. So as you can see, we have the exact figure right here. Now we need to deal with PayPal. So the first thing we need to do is to make use of a package in Angular called ngx PayPal. So I'm going to click on ngx PayPal. It's an npm package that allows us to have access to the PayPal button. So I'm going to copy npm install ngx PayPal, and then I'm going to stop the server and then paste it right in. Let's wait for that to install. So while that is installing, I'm going to click on the documentation link we have right here. So let's open that. So within this documentation link, you can see one of the integrations for the ngx PayPal, how it's being used. So we're going to follow exactly what they have here. When you check the configuration parts, we have the different properties and the types and the description. For instance, as you can see, we're going to need a client ID. This is what we're going to get from the PayPal developer page, which we're going to check in a moment. But for now, we just need to have all this set up in our components. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this ngx PayPal tag. Well, I know Angular might freak out, so I'm going to put it within this PayPal widget comment just below it. We can also grab this PayPal config as well as create order request. So I'm going to copy this and then head to the TS file and then paste it below the import in line 1. We're not done yet. I'm going to copy this variable we have here as well and then paste it right below the cart total. Next up, I'm going to grab everything we have in the private variable we have here. We're just going to make few changes to this. So right below the ng on init, I'm going to paste it right here. I guess we have some errors in a few places. For instance, the show success we have here, because we have not created any variable called success. So I'm just going to create a new variable here called show success and give it an initializer, set it as any. We have an error somewhere here as well. Okay, we can just give it a type of any and it can be inside of a bracket just like this. Yeah, I guess that's fine. Inside the ng on init, we need to initialize it. We need to call the function by making use of the this keywords. We're gonna call the init config, which we have right here. So I'm gonna do this dot init config, and with that it's gonna be made available to us on page load. In terms of the currency, currently as you can see is in euros, and the prices we have here are just default prices within set. So I'm just gonna get rid of this $9.99 we have right here, because the price we want to pay is not $9.99. Instead, the price we want to pay is this dot cat total. So I'm gonna make use of backticks here. So the $sign and then say this dot cat total. That cat total carries the value of the item we want to pay. I believe this is for all. Okay, we still have a variable here that is static, so I'm just gonna clear this off. And in the HTML file, I can see we still have this config issue right here. Okay, it says ngx PayPal is a web component, then add the custom element schema. So we need to add a custom element schema in the app module.cs file to get rid of this error. But before we do that, I still want to configure the client ID. So as you can see, the client ID we currently have here is just a text that says SB. The client ID, we're gonna follow the normal protocol in Angular by heading to the environment.ts file, and right below the production, which is set as false, we're gonna create a new variable called client underscore ID. But this we haven't gotten from PayPal. So to get this from PayPal, let's see if ngx PayPal package has been installed. Cool, now it has been installed. So what we want to do now is to head straight to the developer page for PayPal, which is developer.paypal.com/developers/applications. So once you get here on this page, you try to log into your dashboard, which is what I'm trying to do now. As you can see, I'm logged into the application and I have some applications already created, like about 3 applications. The first thing you need to do is you have the sandbox tab and you have the live part. So while in the sandbox tab, you click on create app and then you answer every questions about the application you want to create. But for me, I don't need to create a new app. I already did that. Once you do that, you can now head to the sandbox part of the application by clicking on account, which you have here. So in account, you have a chance to create a new account. So I would advise you create 2 accounts, which is one for personal and one for business. So if you create on create account, I already did that. As you can see, I have so many accounts available already. So you answer the questions in the input box and then a new account to be created for you. For me, I've already created this account. All I have to do is just to select one of these accounts. So I'm going to select the one above right here. So what I need to do next is to grab the client ID. And to grab the client ID for a particular application, I need to head back to the my apps and credential link on the sidebar and then select one of the applications I want to grab the client ID for. So I'm going to go with this ng shopping cart. So I'm going to click on that. When I click on that, I'll have access to the client ID as well as other details like the sandbox accounts and the likes. So you can see there's a secret also provided, but all I need is the client ID. So I'm just gonna grab the client ID, copy it, head straight to my environment.ts file, and then paste it right in. So that's all I need to do. So I'm gonna save and then head back to the payment component.ts file, and all I need to do is to make use of the backticks for me to configure the client ID right here. So I can just make use of the $sign and just say environment.client ID. So we need to add the backticks. I forgot to do that. So environment.client ID. So I still have an error here which says config custom element schema. So quickly let's fix that particular error. So to fix the custom element schema error, we need to import it right above in the house module file. So within the ng module, I can just type in custom underscore elements underscore schema, and then below the bootstrap key I can just have the schemas. So I'm just going to type in schemas, and then inside the schemas array, all I need to do is just to bring in the custom element schemas, and then I save. I believe that should get rid of the error we have in the payment component file. And then let's restart the server once more by running ng-serve. And while the server is compiling, we need to import the ngx PayPal module, which is something I didn't remember doing. So quickly let's grab this module, ngx PayPal module, head straight to the app module ts file, and right above I'm gonna paste in the ngx PayPal module, and then in the import array I'm gonna inject it and then save. I think that's one of the reasons why the Angular project was freaking out, and the project has finished compiling. So let's make sure everything has been saved, and then let's head straight to the page and see if PayPal widget is available for us to use. I'm also gonna open the console while trying out this process because I want to see the PayPal object as it appears in the browser. So I'm gonna refresh the entire page. Fantastic, the PayPal widget now appears in our project. So what we need to do next is to attempt to pay. So to do that, I'm gonna grab one of my PayPal accounts. To test this out, you need to use one of the accounts you have created in your developer account, because if you use your real account, it's not going to function because you are in a development environment. You need to make use of one of your test profiles. So I'm just going to grab one of these, and then as well as the password, and attempt to log in. So I can do that by searching for one of my accounts. So all I need to do is probably to grab this particular one right here. So I'm going to copy the email as well as the password. So you can do that on your end as well. So I'm going to pay with the PayPal button we have here. So I click on PayPal, it loads a new window, and I'm required to log in this new window. So I'm going to log in with one of the developer accounts. So I enter the email as well as the password, click on login, and then as you can see, it accepts my login credentials and it asks for my preferred payment option. I will go with the Visa card option. There are options of paying later or adding a new credit or debit card. I don't need to do that. So let's click on pay now, and let's see if our payments would be successful. As you can see, the payment is successful because when I open the object here, you can see the payment status is completed, and it has some of the details of the payer, like the payer name and the email address, given the country. So anything you want to do with this information, you can do with it. But for me, what I just want to do is to ensure that anytime the payment is made and the status is equals to complete, I want us to navigate to the success page. So quickly to do that, we need to scroll down to where we have one of the objects, and where we have the on client authorization part, that's where the success is implemented. So we can just say if data.status is equals to completed, that is, if the payment status is completed, then we want to route to another page, that is the success page. I can just say this.router.navigate/success. So once again, we need to inject the Angular router in the constructor. So right above, I can just type in private router and then bring in the router from Angular. I think that's done for us. When you check above, we now have the Angular router above. Error still shows somewhere on the page. Okay, we didn't spell navigate properly. I've been doing that a lot today. So I'm going to save once more, and then we're going to attempt the payment. So once we get navigated to the success page, we know our payment is successful. So let me wait for the page to refresh and attempt to pay once more. So let's see, using the PayPal widget once more. because I'm already logged in, I don't think it will tell me to log in again. This is a developer account. I can pay as much as I want. So I can just click on pay now once more, and then let's see if the Angular router works this time. Awesome. So we are now at the success page. As you can see, it says success works. So what we can just do is to paste a little bit of design on the success page. So I'm just going to grab this code we have right here, which is just a boilerplate for a success message. So I'm gonna paste it in the success page, head straight to the browser, and let's see how it appears on the page. It says, thank you, your order has been placed successfully, your order number is blah blah blah. So you can just customize this page any way you want. So I'm just gonna click on go back to home, and when I go back to home, it clears every item in local storage. I haven't done that yet, so I need to do that. So because I want every item in local storage to be cleared off, what I can just quickly do is to create another function again. So in the success component, I'm gonna create a new function called go back to home. It's gonna be inside of a bracket. So inside the go back to home, we need to bring in the product service to do what I want to do. We need the router, Angular router, and the product service. So first I'm gonna bring in the router. So I'm gonna type in private router. So we need to import and inject it, and then same thing for the service, private product underscore service, product service, import and inject as well. And then within this function, I can just say this dot product service dot clear products, and as well as this dot router dot navigate, because we're going back to the home page. So it's just gonna be a /. So let's see how this clear products looks. Let's see how we designed it in the product service. So clear product, where did we have that? Yeah, you see, it just makes use of the clear function in local storage, which clears everything that's in local storage, every single item or object in local storage. That's what that particular functionality does. So let's save and then click on go back to home to see if we navigated to the home page as well as have the local storage items cleared. So I just clicked on go back to home. We haven't made use of the click events, so quickly let's head back to the HTML file, and within this button I integrate the click event by typing click and then saving once more. I guess this should work this time around. So if I click go back to home, you can see every item in local storage is cleared, and we can repeat the process once more. Add items to carts, try to check out by making use of PayPal, pay for the item by clicking on pay now. If the payment is successful, we get navigated to the success page, and when we click go back to home, we go back to the home page so we can order for more items in the shopping cart. So that's it for this tutorial. If you have any question, feel free to ask in the comment section, and if you have any request video you are thinking of maybe I should make, you can put it in the comments. I'll add it to the list of contents I would create. So thank you very much for watching this one. Do well to like and subscribe so as to support this channel, and I'll see you again in the next one.